Cool.
Training ground. You asked for it, you get it. Ryu and I will rip your photos into smithereens. Hold on to your headphones. Here comes the pain.
And pain it is. Our producer, Matt, no, not Matt. Rob actually helped out Matt doing the microphone thing, and apparently he sounds a lot better. And he did the same thing as well for me. Therefore, I decided to like not move my head at all, and this should improve the sound quality. Well, definitely do let us know via email or on Flickr whether or not this version of Training Ground sounds better than the other ones. Okay, without further ado, and without me actually not moving my head, here is the first photo. And it is by, I've got no idea who it is.
It's Torian.
It is Torian. And I need to like take that out. Sorry, I'm trying to find the, give me 2 seconds. Ugh.
It's a good start to the new audio era.
Okay, so by Torian, this is pole vaulting thing. I'm okay with it, you know? Like, I don't really care, you know? It's like a standard pole vault photo.
Right. So what I see when I'm looking at this picture is the way that the light is coming down on her. And when you know, it's very rare when sun in the middle of the day is going to completely illuminate people's faces, because mostly people are standing up. And so the sun is coming, you know, it's going to be more on their forehead than it is on their chin. The sun is coming directly down on her face, the whole front of her body is getting that really good light. And there's lots of things in the picture that really aren't getting that good light. I would have been trying to do something with that rather than just a straight up picture that looks a little bit better because of the direction that she was going. You know, a different angle, if you were a little bit lower and the part of the illuminated part was, because of the perspectives, it looked smaller. You know, if you were down, you know, on your knees here, shooting back up towards her, and you could only see like a little bit of the shirt and the face and the arms, and that had the light, and then you had maybe the trees in the background or something. When you see light like this, you should be trying to use it, not still continue to make straight up pictures. You have to take advantage, because it's not, you know, most of the time you're going to be shooting football in this. Yeah. Or cricket, or, you know, whatever, and the light is your enemy, and here it's your friend. You have to use it better.
I mean, I think, you know, for a lot of people who's been doing this for a long time, it, like, you know, Toyin, he knows, and we know, and everyone else knows he can basically take basic action pictures, and he needs to, you know, step up his game. And it's important that when you see an opportunity like this, that you have to kind of like risk it into different things. And if you already know that you can do this, there's no point actually showing to us, because I think Training Ground is there for you to experiment, to try different, you know, try different techniques, try anything different from your norm. And it's going to be a wasted opportunity for any of you guys who are doing this. Just if you try to go on the safe route, like, it's always not a good thing. So I said it's fine. It's fine. I don't really mind this, but it's, you know, the whole indifference thing when it comes to these type of pictures, like, to me, it's just a no-no, you know? I rather like Torin actually like really went for it, fucked it up a little bit, and then, you know, showed it to us and say, okay, this is what I've actually, you know, done. Tell me what I could have done differently to make it into a better picture. But this really is straight up just a boring picture, which is fine for, you know, for whoever it is that is pole vaulting. But if you're going to show it to us, if it's going to be one of your pictures in portfolio, then it's just a no-no. Moving on. Yeah, it's kind of same here. With the steeplechase, it's always I don't know. You get close to it, you get the splash, you get the reflection, but I wish he'd done something differently. if you just like search for steeplechase pictures, they're basically always the same. They're very, very close, water everywhere, splashing. And usually there's like, 1,000 different runners at the same time. And this one's got only one. And if it's only one person, I would like to have actually seen a bit more. And if you're this close, there has to be more things you could have actually done with this particular moment. And you basically just went for the safest way possible. And it doesn't really do anything for me. And it's fine, like I said, with the first picture, the pole vaulting thing. But like at this juncture, like I really don't want Toyin to be doing, just fine or normal pictures.
Yeah, I like this one, I guess, better than you do. I think this is just a better version. Everything that Ryu said was true. I just think this picture is better than the one that we saw before. It is more carefully composed than that. And I like how the runner is, the back foot is just clearing the bar there. I don't know, but what Ryu was saying about how you just go and search steeplechase pictures, you'll see a lot that look like this. I've never shot it myself, which is, I would like to. Track and field is not really popular where I am. I would want to see something. Yeah, I don't think there's any major, certainly not regular meets around here.
Okay.
Oregon and
yes.
Yeah, I think Oregon mostly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would want to see something different than this. Like ordinarily I like wide angle pictures of action if you can make it work, but I don't know. I would rather focus on the reflection or the bar or, just the shoes coming over or something like that. Or if you're going to include the whole guy, then have it just be the whole guy and not, the whole rest of the sky around him. So, maybe shooting it vertically with a longer lens. So yeah, I mean, he's not breaking any new ground here, but it's well composed for what it is. It is, the light is helping here rather than hurting. I don't want to throw this in with the one before because I don't think they're the same. There was more care put into this, and it is a better version of it.
And the reflection really is, to me, something that could have made this more.
This is almost worse because there's part of the reflection in there.
It's like a kind of half-assed reflection, and then what should have been done is to wait for the guy who's going to jump on the near side of you and not the far side, because you can, at least from this angle where you're sitting and when you're shooting, you're only going to get that part of him unless he's coming down a bit. Then you're going to have a bit more of his thing. But it's like I don't know, like Toyin probably doesn't shoot that much track and field, and it's a what is it? It's like a good try. You've done it. You've done the basic now. So like next time if you go and do this in like really nice weather like that with good light and everything, I would like to see a bit more than just that. And just like talking to the mic thing is really difficult. Okay, moving on. I'm Matt Cohen, rugby guy, ball. Your take?
Yeah, I try to make pictures where, I'm using something in front to set off a face, so you get that depth between the player in front and the player behind, and then you have the face in focus. And it's I do this during hockey a lot, but you can't do it just to do it. There still has to be something else going on. And here it just, I don't know, the legs in the background are not helpful. Like, especially that guy's striped socks, that's just killing it. It's taking the focus away because the first thing you're going to see, there's no question about it. Anybody who looks at this picture for the first time is going to see that striped sock right in the middle. And then you say, okay, well, that's not what the picture is about. And then you hunt around and you see the ball and then you see the face. So there's not a payoff for any of that effort. This picture would have been better if that guy in the background hadn't been there at all. It wouldn't have been great because it's not really a special kind of moment. He doesn't have a great expression on his face and there's not any kind of great lighting going on. So the ceiling for this picture was lower just from the start. So I would say keep trying to do things like this. If you're this is, I don't know if this is rugby or Australian rules, but you know, when you're shooting this, there are going to be plenty of occasions where you'll be able to do this, where there'll be people in front of you and people behind the subject, and you know, fit them in between people's legs or by their shoulders or something like that. There is something there, but the picture still has to be composed. Everything still has to work in it anyway. Just because you manage to set off a face against things that were closer and further, that doesn't make the picture. The composition still has to be there.
Yeah, like to me, like what really throws me off the whole, I don't know, is the guy's face. Since that's not in focus and the ball is, so you want to like kind of, you know, grab your eye and bring it to the ball. But every time I do that, I can see in my corner of my eye there's a guy's blurry face, which is just really distracts me to no end. So had this been only the ball on the arm, and like Matt said, like the fucking guy in the back, yeah, I think it could have been better, but you know, it's nothing that, you know, I don't, it's okay. But it's not really okay. It's probably even worse than okay because there's so many distracting elements that are there, and something
Yeah,
that
this
you
is
have to
not
really
okay.
like, you know, it's
Yeah,
like just
this
like
is
something
not
you have to really work on when you're doing these things. That if this is the type of shot that you get and you're thinking whether or not it's good, to it has to be automatically like no, because it looks strange, and like not like, you know, it looks strange in a cool way, like it looks strange in a really really bad way. So in that instance, it's a scrap. And you know, it's one of those things that you do have to kind of be like, you have to watch out for when you're actually, you know, checking out your own pictures, saying like, you know, what should I do with this, blah blah blah. You should have just said, just looked at it a little bit here and there. Okay, I'll look at it again. I like it. Okay, I'll look at it again. No, it's not good because of the guy behind, because of the guy, the face is a bit, and then just scrap it. You got to move on. No, yeah, got to keep on trying. And now I will move on to the next photo, and I'll move my head away from the mic. It's no. My eyes goes directly towards his knee, and you cannot. That's a really bad place to cut out a leg. It's right below the knee.
Yeah,
Maybe a
this
little
should
bit
be.
above. You know.
Yeah, this should be. I mean, it's not a throwaway, right? This could be cropped into. It should be a vertical. Those stairs and all those people.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you, it's awkward. If you don't have the full body, you can't go that wide, right? It has to. You have to just say, okay, hey, where's the picture? So it needs to be the top of his head, the edge of his fingers, and then I don't know, maybe just under where his shorts are, you know, in like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch down or something. It's a good expression. The hand is good. Like and both hands, you know, the way that the fingers are spread apart like that. I think both. I would definitely use this picture. I would just crop it into a vertical, and the bottom has to be higher than it is here.
What's really like what bothers me with this is like how the shorts are kind of like all flared up, and it's not very appealing. Like it's not a very attractive look,
right?
Like just there. And but the thing is, if you try to crop it, then you're gonna crop his fingers, which is kind of what's really good about this whole thing. Like both hands, like doing the whole thing. So I just scrap it. Hope for the best next time. Yeah, you know, it's not easy on sports photography. Oh look, Matt, it's very dark in four corners. What should he be doing?
Not vignetting. Not ever. I don't. Yeah. This is what it's like a Photoshop action or something.
Yeah.
Scott, delete that Photoshop action. Just. I don't care if you shoot weddings or high school portraits or whatever. Don't do this. This is not what sports pictures are about. This is for pictures of people in the 1800s where the light didn't go all the way to the edge of the frame, and then once it did, people said, well, this doesn't look right, and they vignetted it with film and the lenses and whatever, and now people do it with actions, and there's no reason to do it at all ever, and certainly not during sports. Please don't do this again.
Yeah, and then it's not, yeah, it's not
You
a
know,
very interesting picture.
no, I don't know. And again, this looks too extreme to have been just like a regular lens situation. I know that there are lenses like old, a lot of the older Nikons will vignette a lot. If that's what's happening here, then get a new lens. But I don't. This looks really. The light looks really different from the middle to the edges. So I'm guessing that this was definitely a Photoshop thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to make a picture more interesting by vignetting it. It will never happen in the history of recorded time. So just don't do it. Spend your effort composing so that you don't have extra room on the left and cutting off somebody's foot on the right. That's where I want your brain power going, to solving those problems, not filters or weird cropping or borders or any of that. I just don't want to see it.
And it's not a good photo to start with. Why? I mean, like, the thing is, like, when you do use these filters and whatnot, I'm fine with using them as long as the picture itself is good. But this whole vignetting thing, like, to this point you can really see it like this, it's just not a very appealing look. Like, it just really isn't. You might think it looks cool because it looks different, but all it does really is kind of like distract your eyes away from the action in itself, and the action itself here just isn't that good. So no matter how much you really try to do it, like, shit is shit, like, doesn't really matter. So don't do it. Like Matt said, I mean, you might as well actually, like, take your time to get better at actually doing this, rather than actually, I don't know, try to put a lot of Instagram filters on these things and try to make something that's not really spectacular, because it just won't change. I'm moving on to the next picture. I like this. It's that really plain background, the action happening on both sides of the frame, the ball and the guy jumping. I don't know, like, if it's one of those things that you got it by luck, but I like just the composition of the whole thing, and also the fact that we have a very plain background. I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I don't want. I mean, it's such a dick thing to say, but that pole in the background, the shadow of the pole. Oh, that's so unlucky. It's so unlucky, because this would be an amazing picture, like, straight up, just a great picture if those things weren't there. Does it kill the picture because they are? It doesn't, because even if those things weren't there, the back frame of the goal would still be there, and it would you wouldn't be able to have a perfect version of this picture unless there was no net and the goal was just a crossbar or something. What I would say is, I like the kid all by himself. I would crop that as wide as you can get from the edge of the frame to where the shadow starts. Just take as much out of that portion as you can. I like how the light is. I like the clean background, the isolated focus. I like the way his face is, looking out of the frame, and then the way the light is hitting his face. I think that's the picture. This isn't bad. You can, if you want to leave it like this and ignore everything I'm saying, that's fine. It's still okay. I just think that, you have to go to where the strength of the picture is. And once you get by the kid, let's block out the kid for a second. Look at just look at what's left. The shadow, the pole, the frame, the front, the actual goal itself, the ball and the net. That doesn't make the picture better, I don't think, than if you held your hand on the other side and just looked at the kid diving like that. So that's my advice.
Yeah, it's harder. Pardon. Yeah, like, it is unfortunate. But what I just kind of take the whole thing as is, I just might and I'm just going to force myself so that I can not look at the shadow that much, because it didn't really.
You can that's the problem though. You can force yourself not to look at it. You can see what what you would have liked it to look like, but you can't ask everybody that looks at the picture to do that. So that's that's why, even though it's a close call, even though you could leave it like this, I wouldn't, because I don't want people to think that I'm okay with extra, poles and things like that in the way, because I'm not, unless it's, absolutely necessary. But here, I would rather people look at this picture and just the kid with the turf and the tent behind there and think, oh wow, I never thought of, you don't need the ball, you don't need the goal, you don't need anything. It's, just this kid on the background. It almost doesn't even look like a football picture at that point.
Yeah.
I would rather.
If the shadow was if the shadow was actually doing something a bit more interesting, that would actually have been good. But the more and more you look at it,
if it was if the shadow was pointing like directly at his hands or something like that,
that would have been cool.
If it had added, but it's just so askew from everything. The pole that's creating the shadow, it's not at a parallel or perpendicular to any of those lines. So it looks like, knives sticking out of a jar or something like that. It's just haphazard like that. And that's always going to be distracting to me. So I assume that anybody that looks at the picture, if they looked at it long enough, it would end up being distracting to them.
But the process in itself, and also just the fact that you kind of saw this coming, or you were actually planning to make it, is very, very good. So
it's good that you recognized it and sent this in, because I think that there would be people who wouldn't. Like I might have just skipped over this, but the fact that you saw that there might be something there, I think is good. This wasn't like a Hail Mary, like, oh, please tell me my picture is good. I think you actually did see something here, and that's good too. I would do the, just hold your hand over one half and then hold your hand over the other half and then figure out, where's the picture.
Moving on.
I don't, I like the way the action is and the way that they're all twisted up there, but really you were never going to get anything. It's just, you can't do anything with light like this. You either have to not shoot this or you have to strobe it. We saw when, I guess it was Scott who was shooting in that gym where it was really dark and they were using spotlights on, it was wrestling.
Yeah.
And they were using spotlights on the individual rings, and you can just go to town on something like that. When you have, this is just overhead fluorescent lighting or whatever, it's always going to just look like this. I don't know what level of competition this was, but you need to find a way to strobe things like this if you want the pictures to look good. If you're shooting this for, the newspaper and you have 3 other gigs that day or something, you're not going to set up lights for that. And this is what they'll take for the newspaper. If you're shooting this to get great pictures, you can't shoot it in the available light in there. You just can't do it.
I like the composition. I do. But I think with the light thing, you really can't do anything about it, I've shot a couple of indoor events because what really happens is that the light gets reflected off the mat, so it gets really just funky for colors. I've shot one with like a green mat, and it was just terrible because everything's green, and it doesn't matter like what you do. There's nothing you can do about it. Same thing I think I had on climbing as well when they were using some like funky colors to light up the climbers. Same thing,
Yeah.
And
the thing about it is that it's people. I think that maybe this is an important lesson for people to hear. Maybe some haven't heard it. It's not necessarily about the how much light there is, right? Because with new cameras, what 10 years ago you weren't able to shoot at all, now you can shoot with no strobe and be able to freeze the action and maybe even stop down to F4 or something like that. But the problem is when you have that even fluorescent lighting or sodium lighting or whatever it is inside, and it's just coming straight down like that, everything looks all the colors look bad. Like there's just no way, even you do a custom white balance, you fix it in Lightroom, all of that kind of stuff. It's always going to, at best, it's going to look dingy. You have this light and then it's reflecting back onto their skin. You're never going to be able to get the skin and the uniforms and the matte, all of that, because you're making individual adjustments to get the skin tone right or a white balance right. It's never going to work with lights like that. And even if it does, it's still going to look dingy. So, it's, again, if you have to shoot this, that's fine. But if you're shooting it for yourself and to get better and to have a portfolio and to be able to convince people to hire you, it's not going to be done with pictures like this.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to look at it closer to see what's in focus, what's not in focus. So just give me a second.
It looks like his face is in focus.
Yeah, it is.
It's just awkward. The way it's cut off, at his ankle and is right below his knee. And then it's also not, the ground isn't parallel to the bottom.
Yeah, it's difficult.
This is not a throwaway.
But I think it's one of those things that I think when I just had a glance at it, it looked quite cool, because I could see the ball and I could see the whatever the artificial grass pebble pellet rubber thing flying all over, and you see just two face, one face, and then one guy on the left. But then the more I see it, it's just the balance of the picture is really, really bad. I think if the guy on the left wasn't there, it would have been a better picture. Which is kind of weird because I think in a way that also does actually make this picture to a very interesting one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's quite disturbing, distracting. Yeah.
No, so, that's not like if he had been holding the ball differently so that you could have cropped out his legs, or if there had been more of the picture on the right, like including all of his legs, I think having the guy on the left would have been better. But yeah, as it is, like if you could just get rid of the guy on the left, that would make the picture better. But I would rather see more on the right to balance it out. But I don't know. I mean, you were on it. The good part is you were definitely shooting from about as low as you can possibly get, which is good. It looks like he was laying here. So, points for that for sure. Keep doing that and you'll end up with better pictures than this. And you'll get to a point where you can throw this away.
Yeah, but not a bad try.
Yeah.
And, really always props to people who does something a bit different. And that really is a lot more for us, it's much more interesting to actually talk about something that you guys try a bit more, try to be different, try to be a bit more creative, try different things. And this is a good example. You want to get on your stomach and shoot, this is what you can actually get. It's a lot more interesting. It's even just sitting down. So if you can, please lie down. Groom. It's been a while. We've actually missed his car pictures.
It has been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's not that good. It's like Santa Claus driving a car, and that's about it.
I like how the light is hitting that guy's face, and I like how the light is on the car and not on very much else. But you really have to go for it at that point. I don't need to see dark pavement on the right when you don't have the rest of the car on the left. Yeah, I think this is a good one, and the one just before, we've had a couple where everything was really out of balance. You have to look at your pictures and figure out, what would happen in this picture. All the weight of this picture is on the right side, or I'm sorry, on the left side. It would just fall right off the frame. There's nothing balancing out the car on the right. It could be light, it could be a shape, it could be another car, it could be anything. But these null spaces that aren't balanced, it just makes it weird. You have all this space on the right side of the frame, but you've cut off the car mid-door on the left side. It's just out of balance. So, this wouldn't have been a great picture. I would have preferred this, if you had been down, obviously for safety reasons or whatever. But if you had been lower than the hood of the car and you You know, the hood of the car was in the light and everything else was around it was dark, and then you had just a little bit of light coming on to that guy's face. I think that would have been, you know, where you would want to go with this picture. As it is right now, the only thing that's saving you is the light, and the light can't overcome the composition being as unbalanced as it is.
Yeah. I only see Santa and that's it. Like if it wasn't Santa,
It does, and it's a red car. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that to me, like just looking at this picture, like what makes it interesting for me is the driver. And that's bad. So yeah. Welcome back, Mike. I hope you don't get too dismayed by our comments, but yeah, I just would this doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, this is another one. So look at, you know, it's team roping is unpredictable. You know, they could end up in a lot of different places in the arena. You can't have, you know, an inch above his hat to the top of the frame and then be cutting off the hooves at the bottom. You have to be prepared for those things to happen. If you're in a situation where maybe this is the only place that you could have shot from here, then you have to be willing to say, okay, you know, at the end of this run, I don't want to be cutting off the hooves. So maybe I would zoom in and just get maybe the horse's head and the rider on the nearest horse. Like, you can do that. There's nothing that says that you need to have both horses and both cowboys and the steer also in the frame. If they're coming too close, then zoom in. And if you can't zoom in, then you can crop in. But this composition is off because there was clearly enough room in the frame, but you aimed too high. So, you know, team roping is something that takes a lot of practice because of how unpredictable it is and because of how many moving parts there are and because of the distances involved and everything that's going on around it. And you don't want to let too much of the background in. Here, you had a perfect background. Like, you know, I've never even shot at anywhere that looks anything like this. So what I would say is, you know, you can shoot a little bit wider here and have it be fine because there's no advertising at all. And there's just trees. So take advantage of that. If you can shoot wider than this, then definitely shoot wider. You don't need to have tight action pictures from every time you go out. If you shoot somewhere that looks like this, take advantage of that.
Like, what really bothers me about this picture is, first of all, the horse's leg being cut off, and second of all, like, it's the background. You know, we talk about it all the time, and background, it does a lot to your eyes. So what you really do want in your picture is that you basically get your eyes to go where it's supposed to go, which is the action, which is what you want the viewers to like look at it directly, and that, like, you want to kind of guide them there. And if you have like the flag in the back, and if you have like another cowboy in the back, to me, like, it's just nothing but distraction. You know, your eyes just gonna wander around, and you don't want that. So yeah, you know, like same thing like Matt said, like this is something that's very, very difficult. I'm assuming it's teams. So there's like another dude actually over there as well. So you have to like find a moment where it's like balance wise, that, you know, another rider is there, and you have the main guy in the forefront, in the foreground, and the other guy in the background. And it has to balance out in your composition so it looks natural. Like this, it looks like he just kind of like popped out and like just there for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I think to translate this into rodeo, you would want to wait for the guy in front to go a little bit further to the right of the frame, so that you would be able to see the guy in the background, and they would be arranged in a way that didn't look like it was just thrown together.
Yeah, and that's really super important. Like, not just for this, not just for rodeo, but like for other things as well. Like, you have to really care for the background. You know, it means everything. We just had this, like, you know, long discussion about the kid and the ball and the shadow. Like, it all takes is just that to throw off everything that you've been kind of working on, but something that you have to like, if it's already there, you can always avoid it by going somewhere else, you know, going for different angle, going from different lens, you know, to kind of like just not involve the background that is going to distract your eye. So please, 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 please have a look always just for the background and make sure it doesn't really, you know, destroy your entire picture. This is messy. I don't know what the fuck is going on here.
Yeah, I think, okay, so at the end of rides, when guys ride saddle bronc horses and bareback horses, there's a pickup man. Pickup man comes around, and the pickup man helps the guy off the horse so that he doesn't have to jump off the horse from 10 feet up in the air. So, you know, the composition of this is okay. You know, again, you really need to be careful about where you're cropping the legs off of the horses. So if you can't zoom out in time, then you have to think about, okay, well, you know, should you just crop it to the guy's boot, you know, the rider's boot, which would have been okay. The problem with this picture is the light is coming from the wrong direction to help you. You know, it's, again, we were just talking about this with the, was that judo or something before? You know, there is enough light. You were able to shoot this without having crazy noise all over the place. You were, you know, this actually looks like a photograph instead of, you know, one of those weird iPhone filters. So, you know, that's fine, but it's not enough. When the light isn't coming in the direction that helps you, and night rodeo with overhead lights casting shadows, look how much lighter the straw hat is than either of their two faces. And the guy in the pickup man in the felt, there's almost no light getting onto his face at all because there's none coming through. It's just reflected light from the hat and the ground and everything. So the problem, there's enough light to make a picture that doesn't have a lot of noise, but there's not enough light for it to be filling in all of the shadows. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you can't shoot that. It means that you need to keep in mind where the light is coming from and adjust what you're trying to do. When I go to nighttime rodeos, where a perfect example, Red Bluff has a Friday night performance, and the lights at Red Bluff are very rudimentary. Like, they're not meant for, you know, seeing exactly what's going on. They're certainly not meant for shooting you know, action pictures out in it. You can do it, but they just don't look good. So I find other things to shoot behind the scenes, you know, celebration, dejection, fans, things where either there is more light or where I can make pictures that don't need a whole lot of light. So, you know, if you can't get the light on their faces, then you should really be trying to make more abstract kind of pictures, because straight up action in a situation like that, just it's never going to be as good as it would be if it was during the day or if you had strobed it.
Oh crap! Did I just? Sorry,
yeah,
did I just?
Sorry.
I think I did.
I remembered what the picture looked like, so it's all right.
It's my fault. Yeah, to me, it's just a mess. Like, you just, it's like something, things like splat like together and just kind of mushed. And you don't know what's going on. And if the mushy thing, like just things like two people kind of combined, looks good, that's fine. But like, if you look at the picture, like, you don't know what the hell is going on. You don't. It's not very beautiful, and it's a no-no. So one of those things, like, you kind of have to like also watch out for is that, like, you have to always take yourself out of when you're like looking at these pictures, and you have to kind of visualize, like, if other people who don't know the sports or like don't know anything about these athletes or whatnot are looking at these things and say, what do they think about? Does it look beautiful if just a layperson sees it? Not like no one who's related to rodeo, just anyone. And the answer for this one is absolutely not, because it's just a messy, messy thing. So this has not, it's not specific to rodeo. It could be football, it could be basketball, it could be swimming, whatever it is you want. You always have to kind of like have a look at it and say, like, okay, does it look good? Does it look beautiful? And if it doesn't, then it's shit,
also,
you know?
Yeah, well, that's very true. It's also, it's harder with rodeo because look how dark the horses are, and they're not getting any of the light either. So you just look at, you know, one horse to the next horse to the pickup man's shin guards to his jeans to his shirt to their faces to his hat. There's really not that much difference in the overall colors there or the overall light that's getting onto those things. That's what Ryu says when it's looking messy. There's no definition between the two horses, the two guys, you know, and all of their gear. It's just, it all looks like a muddled situation because the light is coming down from up top and it's not getting onto anything that you're really shooting there, except for the guy's hat and the one guy's shirt. That's all that's really getting the light there.
So now it's time to BMX. No, I think it's a mountain bike. Yeah, like I said, if it's gonna be like a lighting situation, you know, whatever, it's okay.
Yeah, this is again the lighting. You know, if I see lighting like this, I'm not trying to do fancy, you know, fit the checkered flag in. That's, you'll get winning pictures, you'll get flag pictures, you'll get the, you know, standard newspaper feature pictures. You'll be able to get those all the time. What you don't get all the time is light that looks like it's coming in exactly from the horizon. You need to take advantage of that. Look how dark the trees are in the background versus the light. So we know that how directional that light is. Those trees are getting almost none of that light. It's all reflected. And so you could have underexposed this by like 2 more stops and it would have looked like, you know, he was, you know, floating through space, and it would have looked really cool if you could have gotten like even just like the lip of the track and then everything else was dark or something like that. It would look great. But you're shooting straight up in a situation where the light is begging you to do something more interesting than this. When we say more interesting, don't shoot it like you would if it was overhead. If you have directional light, either shoot exactly with it, shoot across it so that whatever background there is super dark, shoot backlit, do silhouettes. That is when you can really shine as a photographer, taking advantage of good light. The problem is that, you know, the people who shoot events like this mostly are newer photographers, and this is where the light is. I don't get this kind of light. Ryu never gets this kind of light. So, you know, listen, you know, I would almost shoot something like this for a day just to be able to use light like that, because, you know, there's like 2 places that I go to every year that has this. Do something other than shooting it straight up when you have it.
Yeah, and it's really always weird to see that when you get, you know, light like this, that your, I don't know, like a human instinct to like say, you need to like balance everything out and like need to like look, everything needs to be like, you know, not too hard shadows, just like everything, I could see everything and all that kind of stuff. Like, but you're gonna have to like stop yourself and stop in the tracks and ask yourself, okay, now that I've actually gotten it, I want to try something else. It probably is a bit of a human nature thing to like, you know, for instance, the same thing goes for like trying to fit everything into the frame. So you want the head, you want the arms, you want the legs, you want everything to fit. But I think if you just take a step back and ask yourself like, well, how many photographers have this kind of shot? And the answer is probably almost all of them. And it's nothing original. It's nothing really interesting. It's nothing new. So all you gotta do is like, you look at this picture and say, holy shit, you know, I got this. I need to like really just take a bit of a break. You know, these guys fucking go around like a billion times from the track. They're gonna jump up again. There'll be other people who will jump up. And what you do need to do at that time is that you need to then tell yourself, okay, I've got what I wanted to get in terms of the action. Now I need to go and try something different. And for all of you, not just Will, it's all of you. You need to be really thinking that all the time. Don't go safe. You know, take a bit of a risk and see how it goes. This sucks, Reed. It's a no-no. And you know it's a no-no. Because I've seen these things so many times from you, and this is a no. It doesn't matter if you use a fisheye lens or not. There's nothing interesting happening. So no.
Yeah, this does nothing for me. It's just, I don't know. It's basically just a regular picture, a regular camera phone picture of some bikes going by in a, you know, in a Photoshop warp or something like that. Like there's no point to it. You're not using the fisheye to do anything. You know, yes, you've distorted the guy in the front, but not in any kind of way that's visually pleasing. And then you have him covered up by riders in the back, so that there's not even a good clean shape to it. They're not. It looks like they're going straight here. It doesn't even look like they're going around a bend or anything like that. Usually, you know, to get them, you know, if you're going for a fisheye picture, you want to be as close as you can, and that's going to be around a bend. This looks like it was just going straight. So I don't know. I don't really get it.
Sorry, I just had to let the cat out. This sucks as well. Simon, it's a guy signing a fucking ball.
It's not even like, it's not even sharp. Like is it motion blur?
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
it's shit. Like this is you know, it's BLFS really shit photography thing. It's like, you know, just read one and this one. It's no, guys. Like, you just can't do this. And I really do expect, like, you know, Reed and Simon to be over these kind of crappy pictures. Like, just throw it away. There's nothing to see here. Like, what am I supposed to be looking at? Like, exactly what am I supposed to be looking at? Nothing. Just nothing there. All right, Matt Cohen.
I mean, you know, it's a great moment. The reaction is great, but it's just like the composition is just a horror show.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh yeah, I mean, part of it is unlucky. You know, the way that she's running and the way, you know, that she could have run right at the camera or something, but I don't know. I would hope that there's a better frame in this thing. It's not that she's not the only one in the frame. You know, in a team sport, there's rarely only going to be one person celebrating all by themselves. The problem is her teammate behind her, there's no transition. It's just shirt to shirt, right? So it makes it look like she's misshapen or something. And then the way that the arms are cut off on the front, and again, you know, there's 3/4 of an inch of green at the bottom. You know, I get it. These things happen quickly, but you have to react faster than this. You have to know your gear well enough to know, you know, this is the focal length that I need to be at for a person standing, you know, so far away. You don't need to know that, you know, down to the millimeter or something like that, but you need to have a good enough feel that you can zoom in to get what you want, zoom out to get what you want, and aim the camera in a way that's, you know, maximizing the pixels that they're giving you. You're wasting them on the bottom when you could have used them at the top. You know, her hands being cut off would not have helped her, you know, save the picture or anything like that, because number 20 behind is the one that's ruining it. But you're not helping anything by having her covered up behind by one of her teammates and having her arms chopped off and having the extra space in the bottom. So you have to be, I don't know, maybe it is just experience. Maybe you have to do this enough times to have the reflexes and know your gear well enough to do that. But if there's any way to speed that along, you know, maybe keeping it in mind every single time, like, what would I do if the ball came here? Or, you know, if there's going to be a celebration, it's going to be towards the corner or something like that. And then what will you do when that happens? You have to be faster on the draw than this, both zoom wise and aiming wise.
Yeah, I'd really just throw this picture away based on the girl behind and also the girl in the forefront with his arms cut off. Like, that's it, you know? It's a no man's land, really, when you have this, like, focal length, and if you cut things off, like, it's death. And the composition itself, the action's happening in the middle, and there's nothing happening on the left. And the goalkeeper there is just distracting. And that really also kills it as well. Different color shirt. It's bright yellow. And that just kills it. Just really quickly, when someone is taking a shot in a, well, I guess like with anything, someone throwing, someone kicking, someone doing something in sports, usually the action in itself is not that beautiful. There are not that many players in the world that has very, very beautiful follow throughs. Really, let that be basketball, someone shooting a ball. Let that be someone who's shooting like here in football. Let that be, I don't know, I'm just thinking like a quarterback throwing the ball. Let that be someone, for instance. Running is a bit easier, but like anything that has anything to do with like impact with a ball, it really, tennis is a lot easier, but like with football like this, it's very, very, very difficult in a way that it doesn't look good. Like I have taken a lot of shots of, people striking the ball for a shot, and it looks like shit. The take back a lot more beautiful, and maybe after the shot is done, when the momentum actually takes them and actually spins them around, that's quite beautiful. But the actual impact in itself, I've rarely have a shot that looks like, wow, this is really cool. It just looks like shit every single time. It's a really good example that it just looks like shit. That's it, you know?
Yeah, I don't even know why we're going that deep into this, because her feet are cut off, the player in front's feet are cut off, there's nobody in the stands, there's ad boards that are lighter than the action going on, and it's, really it's not even properly exposed, to start out with. So this was a throwaway in the camera. The moment of this was when she was, winding up to take the kick, or while she was dribbling, or if the ball went in and she was celebrating or something like that. But yeah, I mean, look at it. This doesn't look like somebody who's doing sports. This looks like somebody who is a mime, or is possibly doing ballet or something like that, but not in a good way. So you need to look past, like, I'm guessing that you were okay, the ball is in the frame and she has a cool look on her face and only half of her face is lit up, but you have to look at the whole rest of the picture. If you were being honest with yourself and you scanned, all the different zones of this picture, and you saw, well, there's a lot of turf that's not doing anything, and here's some ad boards, and here's a banner, and some fencing, and white seats with nobody in them, and feet cut off, or whatever, you would never have made it all the way through that whole checklist before you deleted it.
It sucks.
Yeah, I just don't need these pictures at all.
It's not in focus. Matt's looking at it like through the app, and I'm actually looking at the actual original picture here, and it's not in focus.
Shooting through this is tough. I got assigned to shoot a MMA thing years ago.
Sorry, it is in focus.
Is it?
Yes, I correct myself. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, well, then I don't know, make it way tighter than this.
Yeah.
I don't I don't really need any of this, but I don't know. I don't find shooting through a fence to be I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal choice that I'm making. I just wouldn't do it. Yeah, I didn't when I got there and found out that I couldn't shoot from overhead and I couldn't get close enough to the fence to completely blur it out or whatever. I just said, no, I'm not doing this. I think that's the only assignment that I've ever bailed on. Yeah, it is.
Really?
Yeah. I got there and I just said, no way. So, not saying that you shouldn't do it. I know that, chances to shoot are few and far between if you haven't reached a certain level, but I don't know. What are you doing here? I don't need to see that guy's back and the back of his shorts or whatever when his head's cut off like that. There's just, it is, I don't know, that guy's face and the way that the sweat and the blood are mixing on there or whatever, I guess is cool in that way, but that didn't have to be, you didn't have to take this picture to demonstrate all of that. So having him covered up and, but not, you can't even really tell what's happening. Like who's connecting where? Is the guy in the front hitting him at that exact moment?
Let me have a look. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this composition, if you're really going to go for it, then this is the picture, right there.
I can crop it like this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can stop talking about it and you can say, okay, I made a MMA picture or something. For the impact, you're not really getting it because I couldn't tell from the default size or something like that. Yeah, I can't tell whether he's hitting him or whether it glanced off or whether he missed from here. And even if I grant you that, it's still not the best visualization of somebody getting hit. You would want to see, you would want to see it from the side. You'd want to see his skin actually being impacted from all of it. But anyway, you could just go with how it was tight, how Ryu had zoomed in on it before. That's where the picture is. If you're intent on keeping this, then you need to crop it to there because having this other guy's back. Is this McGregor? Is this the title fight?
No idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, having that guy's back and his shorts in there and all the rest of the extra space when you're not going to have his head, just it throws it all off. So you have no choice but to crop this down.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's too much of that guy, you know? There's absolutely too much of the guy on the right, and just distraction and everything. It's not a really interesting moment. So, you know, but I think, Trevor, you should look for a moment in another MMA bout that is not someone punching someone. You know, how's that for a change? I want you to actually like find another moment that is actually not that. Um, yeah, because you gotta get, I think you do get quite caught up on like saying like, "Oh, I need to actually picture of that impact of like the guy, smashing the other guy's face," which is fine. I like MMA, so it's not like I'm against it, but it's just really boring. Like, is that the only photo you can possibly get from a fight where you're constantly just trying to get that one shot of the guy's fist or his leg into another person's body part, preferably the face? And like this, like, I don't really care. And like Matt said, the whole like through the fence business is it's just nothing but distracting, So no, I'm not too crazy about this. You okay? Should I go on?
Yeah, I don't need to say anything
Okay.
else about it.
All right, Matt Cohen, this is the last one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. Just the light wasn't right for this. This is another situation where yes, your camera can take pictures in very little light, but you need the light to actually define the things that you're shooting. I don't know if could this be saved in Photoshop. It probably could, but it would look increasingly fake the more you did that. I like a lot of things about this picture. I like how the motion is all moving, in the same, like the middle half of the frame. If you took off a quarter on the bottom and a quarter on the top, the rest, I like how everything is kind of constricted to that, and I like how it's not consistent. Like some of it's moving straight up and down, and some of it's moving side to side. And I also like how there's definition around the main player's legs. That's a nice touch. The problem is the light's just not good enough. You need to do something that makes this look way less mushy than this. And I don't know if it can be done in Photoshop, but it should be done, at a situation where there's better lighting on the field.
Simon, I really like this picture. I really do. But I wish, like, because the fact that like the main subject is the guy in the middle, I wish you'd actually kind of like framed it so that it actually was in the middle. Like Matt said, the lighting is bad; it's underexposed, but the idea I think is really good. I would hope that if you're gonna do this again, this kind of like vertical, spanning. I said spanning. What? Vertical. What is that thing called? The one that he's doing this technique is called
Panning.
That's it. Spanning, spanning the globe. This like vertical panning thing. I like
This
it
is
a
a
lot.
sports photography podcast brought to you
Yeah.
by
So
one person who
this
doesn't know the word panning. That's a
spanning,
problem.
panning. It's been a while. Yeah, but like I really do like it. So please try it again. Make sure you check on the light. Make sure if you have to Photoshop it a bit to get all those things kind of correct color wise and light wise, do that. But if this is the type of thing that you can possibly get again, I don't know how you can, but I guess you can always try. I would love to like really see it when the guy is in the middle. Yeah, and a little bit like slightly, I don't know, like I would like to see two versions, a bit tighter and also a bit wider and see if that's gonna also work out. But yeah, why not? Give it a try. That is it for Training Ground. This is part of the Big Lens Faster show. Big Lens Fast Shutter show. This is actually quite
Also a
difficult for me.
podcast brought to you by somebody that doesn't know what the podcast is called.
Yeah, honestly, like this like not moving my head thing is like it's really tough. So I need to kind of like get used to this because this is gonna be for the rest of my life like this. Yes, this is a video part. This is called Training Ground, where you submit a picture on our Flickr group page, which you can actually find if you go to flickr.com and search for Big Lens Fast Shutter. And you can submit your picture, and we will have a look at your picture and talk shit about it, or maybe we just say nice things about it. You never know. You got to try it. And the podcast is you can actually find it at biglensfastshutter.com. And it's great. It's probably the best sports photography podcast in the world and best sports photography show in the world, really. Maybe the only one.
Well, also maybe, we're neck and neck with Fro.
And Getty Images, like really shitty podcasts as well. But ours is free, kind of. If you've been listening for a while, and if you really feel that what we've actually been telling you, all the terrible things we said about your photo is making you feel really, really good, please go to patreon.com/BLFS, and that is patreon.com/BLFS, and give us as much money as you want per month. We would really appreciate that. So that is Matt Cohen. This is View Vocal. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to get used to this, thing that we're doing right now. I need to actually, I can't look and do it at the same time.
I don't know. Let us know if the sound quality is improved on this. So. both on Training Ground, which is not produced by anybody, and on the podcast, which will be produced by Rob. So you should notice an improvement now. You should notice more improvement after the podcast.
Thanks, and have a good evening.